Paul J. Brasco. Kathy Ann Harris.
Present.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Present.
Daniel P. Romard.
Present.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Present.
You have 4 present, 1 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, can anyone in the chamber recording this? If so, can you please identify yourself?
Chris Campbell will be recording.
Mr. Chris Campbell recording.
I'm typing.
Thank you. And Council Dodge is typing. Councillor Romard makes a motion to approve the minutes from 10-1. On the motion, yes.
Just a couple of typos we can fix,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. So on bottom of page 1, 17-80 Brennan,
Yeah.
and the first line there, Brennan Ave, is small typo, needs to be corrected. Spelling of Brennan Ave.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it needs to be.
You're looking at 2 N's instead of 1?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. On page 2, under Rodent Resolution, Councillor Harris moved to take the instead of them out of the table.
Thank you.
And then down below, after the committee came back to order at 6:22, the matter before us was 17-25 Crescent Street, not Crescent.
Priscilla.
Crescent.
Sounds French.
So I will make sure the clerk gets that. Other than that, I will move approval.
All right. On the motion with the changes to the minutes, most of them being spelling errors. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. The clerk.
Yes.
What do we have?
First new matter, so the new matter is the request from the mayor for the city council to hold a public hearing on Brennan, Carroll, Goldencrest, Priscilla, Mountain, Crestview, Midland, private only streets, and to notify the residents of a public hearing regarding that betterments.
Okay. I believe all of us have a copy that we received from Attorney Craig regarding this. I left a copy there in front of you. And Attorney Craig is here. Yes. What do we have from a member, Councilor Darcy?
Thank you. So this matter is concerning the resurfacing of Brennan, Carroll, Crestview, Mountain, Priscilla, Midland, and Mountain. And we received a communication from Attorney Craig stating that, to my happiness, that all the roads are above the 50%, and I can confirm that with the attorney, that they're all above 50%.
Yes. The exception is I didn't have any signatures from Midland.
So Midland already was passed
Okay.
2 or 3 years ago. The private portion, Midland Drive, is public for the first 2/3 and then private for the last third, and we already have, I believe this council, in fact, I will ask the clerk to get the order with the estimated betterments to get a copy for all the public works members. That was like 2 years ago.
Great.
And then I said one question. I mean, I'm very happy that they're above 50%, because I mean, this has taken 5 times. The first from Councillor Brasco and the last 4 from me. And I'm very happy that this is passed. The only thing is Carroll Lane, there were only 3 people on Carroll Lane. The last members, the third member did not sign on, so I think the percentage is actually 59.3%, not 92%. Just for your records. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
probably
think that looks more accurate, what you're saying, over 50, but not 92.
Yeah, and then, so the next question is going to be, because some of these people that live on these roadways in Goldencrest Estates, that's the name of the subdivision, some of the lots have very large frontages. Some of the lots are on 2 different streets because they're corner lots, and as such, their estimated betterments were very high. We had a proposal from a neighbor that does construction to do entire site, I think, for 400,000 plus. I don't know the exact number, but, and then his proposal was to just divide it up by the number of people that live in the subdivision. Is that okay?
And generally, it's not. Proportional is the language that's used in both our betterment ordinance and the chapter 80, section 1 language. And there is supposed to be a proportioning of the benefit to the cost. And so it isn't unusual that corner lots that might have newly paved roads on each side are gonna have a higher assessment. People who have a larger frontage are gonna have a higher portion. But the ways that have been approved are either square footage or calculating the area of the lots and apportioning based on the area. Larger area lots getting a bigger benefit, smaller getting a smaller one. Those two have been approved, particularly with respect to resurfacing of roads. You know, apportionment in other circumstances like sewage or water is a little bit different, but those are the approved ones that have been done in the past. If you do it by number of houses and divide it, doesn't necessarily,
Pass the muster.
it's not necessarily proportional, it's equal.
So could we take the proposed cost from the gentleman that lives, Mr. Caradillo, and then apply the city council just recently passed a new percentage. I think it's 33% for the residents and 67% for the city. Could we, and I don't know if that's your job or the engineer's job, but could you compute what the betterments would be based upon that new rate?
In the past, it's been engineering, but it's essentially, if you're going by the footage, it would just be a math problem. That wouldn't be hard to do.
So that could be something that you could do either?
We could, yeah. And
So could you, is it possible to do, I don't know, I mean, there's three ways. There's one based upon the frontage, one based upon the area,
yes,
and then one could be a combination.
yes.
So maybe just start off with the frontage in the area, and then using this, the 1/3 resident, 2/3 city, based upon the 400, I think it's 460,000.
And just to let you know, I haven't seen the estimate at all.
The mayor has the top, so you, one request, I'm not a member of this committee, even though I sponsored the resolution of the matter, would be for the law department and the engineering department to compute the betterments based upon the newly revised apportionment that was passed in the city council. And I believe the mayor, I think even though we passed it, I think there's a 10-day period where the mayor can appeal that or repeal, and that
Veto.
she can veto, and that hasn't expired yet.
It is not.
So, so I think we need to wait to see if that gets vetoed. I mean, we can ask the law department. Someone can ask the law department, because that'll be just 3 days from now, I believe, or 4 days. We'll be at Friday.
Right, I think the one will run Tuesday, it was passed Monday night,
Right.
arrived in her office on Tuesday, so it'll be 10 days from Tuesday.
So the, and do we want to, I think we want a written statement from the law department. It has to be based upon percentage, or not percentage, but by proportion. The other thing that I want to bring out to the city council, because the council from Ward 1 passed curbing where the city paid 90% and the residents paid 10%. So as you know, as all of you know, that ultimate betterment can be lowered to something. It has to be something. It could be $1. Not to say that I want it all, but I'm just saying that, just like the Ward 1 councillor got the city council to vote for a 10% cost to his constituents, that right now, on the books, if the mayor doesn't veto it, it's going to be 1/3. So say it's 450,000, a third of 450,000 is 150,000 divided by the 100, just on average, the 100 residents in that neighborhood, that's going to be like a $1,000 or $2,000 cost, which I think they all can afford. The problem that we had in the past is that a lot of the residents are on fixed incomes, they're elderly, they just simply don't have the money to pay for this roadway. Even though some people really, really want the roadway, and there's other people that just can't afford it. So, so I asked that someone on this committee ask the law department in conjunction with engineering to compute the estimated betterments based upon the revised numbers after Friday. And if after Friday she vetoes it, that'll come back before the city council, and that could be overridden potentially. It may not be, so that's the. There's other speakers here, so I just want to thank the attorney for coming in. I thank him for validating that we're up over 50%. I know the residents will be very happy because they're going to realize that this now can be resurfaced. It hasn't been resurfaced since 1960. It's in really bad shape.
Thank you.
I'm going to yield the floor, but I'm going to, if you could come back to me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, no
Thank you.
problem. Council President LeBlanc.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chairman, and it's really some questions about some of the things that the Ward 3 councilor has said. I know that Mr. Cardillo, a private citizen, came with a proposal. Did Mr. Cardillo just give us an estimate based upon his construction knowledge, or is he suggesting that his company would do the work?
It's another company that he's familiar with, the gave him an actual estimate. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay, so he got.
That's correct. I have an estimate.
And so, and I'm not even sure who this question would be, but typically, before the city assesses.
Councillor Brasco. Present. You may want to recuse yourself. We're talking about your street.
I'll recuse myself.
Typically, before the city assesses betterments, it's the city that gets the estimate. Is that correct?
Receive the estimate.
Yes.
Right. So it would be the city that gets the estimate. I'm just wondering if it presents any kind of an issue where the numbers that we're dealing with were generated sort of outside, or the cost projection that we're dealing with was generated outside of the city system. Does that, for the attorney, is that an issue?
You know, as all of our government purchases go through 30B, through the government procurement statute, so
Right.
normally it's
But in the
put out to
past,
bid.
when this body has looked for the engineering department to come up with an estimate for the work and for betterments, they have done that through their process. Here, we are taking what a private citizen came in with and said, here's what it's gonna cost. Does anybody get the potential issue with that? It may or may not be accurate. What if what that citizen provided wasn't accurate? What if it turns out to cost the city much more when it goes through this process? Then those numbers aren't quite right. I mean, that was one question that I had that I hope the committee will get an answer to. Yep.
Yeah, you do have a great point, and probably perhaps I'll leave it up to Mr. Chasen, who is here. But I do have the estimate that was given by Mr. Cardillo, is here with me. You're right. This could definitely be used as a sort of a baseline to start with. I mean, we probably will get a better number, or a different number perhaps from our engineering department as this process moves forward, but the number of $400,000, it's somewhat, if I do the math, you pretty much get to that number. It's coming from a given company, and I'm thinking perhaps it's an idea, but you're right, the number we will not know.
And my only other question was, the mayor's communication was sent to this committee. all of these streets, again, I looked at the word council, had public hearings?
Multiple.
Right, so I,
just say that I think a loan order's already been passed for that amount.
so it has, that's another issue. But all of the streets have had public hearings, so I guess my basic question was, why are new public hearings needed?
Yes, Councillor.
It's a public hearing to inform the residents what their ultimate price, their cost for the streets will be, given that A, we had a much lower estimate, probably half of what the going rate was, and B, now the fact that the city council has potentially passed after Friday a total revision, so that people would want to know what their estimated betterments will be before moving forward. I'm not gonna move forward with the estimated betterment order. I'm not gonna push it unless they're all on board. I think they will be, because it's gonna be much less than they, it's gonna be less because of this bid, and it's gonna be less because of the new revised rates. So I think everyone's gonna, but they have to know how much they're gonna have to be paying. And as the attorney said, it has to be proportional, so it can't be, from what I'm hearing from the attorney, it can't be just a flat rate. But that being said, it's gonna be low enough that everyone can afford it, so they're all gonna be on board, so we have to have a meeting.
And again, I would come back to, how do we have a bid when we didn't go through the bid process? And is this just setting up this vendor, I mean, to get the work, it sounds.
Well, the vendor's gonna be the lowest bidder, I can guarantee you that, because there's no bidder that's gonna be even near. So, if it's, you know, I don't know what the procurement process is, but this bidder will definitely be the lowest bidder at that rate. Because their rates were twice as, before that was twice as high, so.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question was it for all the streets that are proposed, and it is. My second question is along the same lines, is that if you're doing a betterment, so we're using taxpayer dollars to pave this street, it has to be brought up to public street standards, is that correct?
No, it's a bit of a different issue. If you were going to accept it as a public way, you would be requiring that the abutters bring the road up to the state requirements.
Okay.
But for purposes of resurfacing, no, we're just doing, it's called a major temporary repair. in our
Yes,
ordinance.
all right, so that does answer my question, because I was gonna say that engineering would have to come up with the standards that they would have to bid against, so, I'm sure Lazaro's been paving for years, and I'm sure that he knows then what the standards he was bidding to, and that's all I have for questions, thank you.
Sure. Councilor Romard.
Mr. Chairman. First of all, through you to the Ward 3 Councilor. Councilor, could you just state that request again, and we'll put that in?
Request that the law department and engineering department compute the estimated betterments for the resurfacing of I think it's the 7 streets.
Okay. Based on the frontage or square footage, or what are we gonna base that on?
There's gonna be 2 items, one for the frontage and one for the square footage.
Both? Calculate both?
Calculate
Two
both.
flavors.
Okay.
Based upon the bid that we received and the existing and the potential changed rate. So I would do both the 75% and the 25% and the 33% and the 67%, the 2 different rates. Because if the mayor vetoes it and it doesn't pass, then we're still stuck with the old rates, which is fine. So it's gonna be 4 columns. It's gonna be one for frontage, one for area, one for the current breakdown, 75-25, one for
3366.
3366.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make that request, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
On the request, you got that, Mr. Clerk, you have the,
Yeah, you got it, I think.
thank you.
I can work with the clerk.
All right, thank you. On the request, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Just
Okay.
say,
So also, I guess this is a question for, I guess, the Ward 3 Councilor, is it? Again, in the communication we got on the 11th, and I take it, that was Mr. Cardillo's estimate working with Lazaro, right? That doesn't include Goldencrest, Carroll Lane.
Yes, it does.
Okay, this here just says Brennan, Mountain, Crestview, and Midland.
There was a revised bid that included the extra streets.
There was, so
Yeah.
we have that?
You're certain?
Does that come in a different date?
Right, I got the same information you have, and I don't have,
Yeah, I was just curious, unless I missed something, I just wanna be sure that,
So the clerk, so perhaps the clerk could check with Mr. Cardillo to ensure that we have the bid. that's
and again, just to be sure, we're talking about Brennan, Mountain, Crestview, Midland, Goldencrest, and Carroll.
And,
1, 2,
Priscilla.
3, 4, 5, 6, and Priscilla.
in Midland.
Carol, Priscilla, yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
Martin Road, yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, just wanted to be sure, we have all those. And looking at the packet today, we had, that was determined, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
There's a public portion of Midland
6.
which the city will repay.
Yeah, and you said the 7th Midland was already done.
The estimated betterment, the old estimated betterment was already passed as an order, but,
So we have the 50%.
yeah, but I would ask that the lawyer, the attorney, compute the new rate for Midland, because that was passed under the old proportion.
But I mean, we have over 50% of the residents on Midland in agreement, so we're good with that? Because that's not
Yes,
here either.
Yes, the private portion of Midland Trust.
Do we have that, or does the law department have that? We're sure.
The clerk has that, that was passed 2 years ago.
Does it need to be revised? I don't know if there's new owners.
That's why I'm
there.
asking, no. That's why I'm asking the attorney to include Midland in that list, so that when we have the public meeting,
I see, okay. And
so just
you-
as you know, someone can vote for it, but if it changes ownership, it doesn't mean that it's not valid anymore.
And so when you say do Midland, that means calculate the, it looks like the square footage of the frontage here, as well as a yes or no. You've spoken to the people, is that how you got these?
The signature sheets were supplied to the law department, so that's what the yes and no came from, whether or not they had signed out.
So do we have the signature sheets from Midland that
The
he's
clerk's
gonna
office has that from 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Okay. Do we need to put in a request for that?
No, the clerk can figure it out.
Clerk will send those sheets to the law department? Okay,
That was the only street that passed on the
Yeah.
third round.
okay. And then, so through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Director of Public Works, are you here to speak on this? No.
That's where we're headed.
So do we, well then through you to the President, Madam President, you had mentioned this quote here, which I understand came from Ms. Cadillo. We're thinking that the city will be less if we get a quote from the city to do it, is that what I understood?
That wasn't what I was suggesting at all. What I was suggesting is, this is the first time I have been exposed to a city situation where a private entity was coming forward unsolicited to get $500,000 worth of work,
Okay.
without going through
I would agree.
a bid process, without, now, I mean, the estimate comes from a reputable company, the individual who initiated it is a reputable individual. It's just the first time I've ever been exposed to it.
Yeah.
And what happens if it in fact is more, right? And we've now just told people what they're gonna pay based upon a figure that nobody in the city had a hand in putting together.
So,
And this came from the mayor, I mean, we got this.
yes,
before.
and I was a little surprised, quite honestly, but, maybe your guidance, Mr. Chairman, do we ask the CPW director to come in, or do we just put in a request for the CPW to get an
We don't
estimate?
wanna talk on this hearing.
I know, but he said he's not here to talk, I don't wanna put him on the spot, if he's not here to prepare
I
to
just
speak.
don't know if there's questions I can
Well, I guess
Happy
the
to
question
answer
is going to be,
now, so I don't have to come
I'd
back.
like to put in a request to have you, I guess, I don't know if you what the normal process is, do you normally take bid, do you put it out to bid?
Yeah.
And companies bid on it?
Yes.
Okay, well, I would
So
think
no
we need,
matter what, I'm not the procurement guy,
Mhm.
but every time or whether we're doing a number of streets under one bid, it will need to go out to bid, that can't be, we can't just give it to Lazaro, is my understanding of the bid laws.
Right, of course,
Yeah.
that's understood.
So whatever the prices come in
procurement
at
is
that,
Mr. Padula?
correct.
Okay,
So usually I put the bid package together with my estimate and send it to
Yeah.
him, and he puts it out, and,
so then I guess, Mr. Chairman, if you agree,
Yes.
I'd put in a request to the mayor to have these 7 streets put out to bid through the normal bidding process.
Right.
So that we can get a true estimate, and I guess the best estimate for these residents. And hopefully, it's gonna be better than what we see. Better be better than what we see.
Mhm.
I'm hoping they would give the city a better rate than they would private citizens, but we don't know. So I think, to be fair and to follow the process and all of that, I think
But don't you just
we need to be,
don't you make an estimate before you put it out to bid?
I've made estimates
Yeah.
on those
Like
prior.
on Harrington Road, you did an estimate, it wasn't put out to bid,
So we did the estimate. Harrington Road did get put out to bid. We have the numbers, and we'll have to come back in and ask for the money.
but before we did the betterments order and we assigned it to the
Yes.
people, it was based on an estimate that you did,
Correct,
right?
correct. Based off historical numbers that we've received over.
But it didn't go out to bid, and then we wrote the bet, that's not how we did
No, we
it.
don't do it back, right. that's
No,
what-
so the other thing with the betterments is, if my number, if the city's number is too high, the residents, and it comes in lower, the residents pay the lower number. If it comes in too low, the city eats whatever we didn't get money for from the residents.
okay.
So if it's, comes in at 800,000,
Well, I guess to be
The
safe,
city
then the
will eat
request would
400.
be for the mayor to follow the standard process
Yeah.
for obtaining estimates for paving betterments.
But meanwhile, could we also get your estimate? I mean, that would be a good starting point, but is it, I mean, I know we did something like that with Harrington Road. I mean,
Some point of information.
Yes.
We already have the estimates for all the roads except for Ivy, Priscilla, and Goldencrest. They've
Okay.
already been
But from the
delivered.
city estimates, or
Yes.
you-
the ci-
Yes.
So you already, so you already have the estimates for all,
you know, I don't know, it was a
And it's, see, the
At
thing
some
is, that's
point.
why they're called estimated, and that's why typically, like, it might take 3 or 4 years to resurface a street, and we don't charge the residents anymore. And it may eventually go up to bid, but we're not gonna charge them what the bid price is, we're gonna charge them what the engineering department or the CPW department came in as the estimates, despite the cost of oil, which is the major factor of asphalt. But, so in this case, we already have estimates for Brennan, Mountain, Midland, Crestview. The only ones we don't have estimates for would be Goldencrest, Ivy, and Priscilla. So the request would be to obtain, for the CPW to do just those streets that we have not yet received the estimates for.
and I'm sorry, Council, that was Goldencrest, Carroll, and Priscilla?
Goldencrest, Carroll, and Priscilla.
Okay, so then I will make that request. And I would also add to that the CPW director provide the original estimates for Brennan, Mountain View, Crestview, and Midland.
correct?
Mountain, not
Yeah.
Mountain View.
Yeah, come on.
Mountain, I'm sorry.
Is there something you can get to?
I have them in my packet, I can give it as a quote.
Okay, so you will provide those
Yeah.
estimates to us, and you'll just miss 3 then, you'll,
But we wanna be sure, I think we wanna be sure that Or are we asking that it be one company and it's a set price for everybody? I don't want the.
It's not a set price, it's an estimated betterment based on.
What I meant was, I don't want the price per square foot of Brennan to be $100 a square foot or frontage, and now we're getting a different estimate, so Carroll, they're paying 85.
So when it goes out to bid, we'll list the streets,
All 7.
but they're done by item, so the paving, everything is, each item is paid at the same rate, so it's.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying, so when it goes out to bid, so the estimates might be a
Say,
little
no, the
different.
estimate would be the same way, I'd use this,
You
they're
would
gonna
use
be
the same,
different now,
okay.
because
Okay,
whatever my numbers were back then may not be my numbers now.
okay, could be lower, could be higher,
Right.
Correct.
okay, okay. So you have those
We have
requests,
that
and
request.
I have it.
yep,
All right.
vote on it?
Okay, on the request, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
opposed say no, the ayes have it.
And I would, I have no further, I mean, once we get the numbers from the attorney, then we can schedule the public hearing. So, I have nothing further to add.
All right,
Thank you,
Councillor,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Councillor Darcy. Now, can we have this public meeting, once we get the numbers back? Can we just have it here, or do we need to have it, I mean, how,
Be a lot of people, so I think we
you think
should.
they'll will come,
At the MacArthur School,
you want something like that too, okay?
there'll be like 100.
Because it's more about just us presenting the numbers, it's not really a debate or discussion, it's pretty much this is what we have kind of scenario, would that be the case?
I like the meet and greet.
Okay, oh yeah, of course, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that, but what I'm saying, we're gonna be presenting pretty much what we have for them when it comes to the
Yeah.
event, right?
Yeah, and I mean, everyone's welcome to attend.
Of course, so that'll be, okay, so that'll, okay. All right, that's good.
I'll move to lay it back on the table, we done?
Okay.
Thank you.
All the motion for back on the table, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Next, the table matter road resolution, they want to move that from the table. I'll take it from the table. Motion to move road resolution off the table, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, this is a response to many phone calls and emails I've received about the rodents. And two thoughts came to mind from various individuals and constituents. One is that the city's providing recycle bins to every resident, and yet they're not providing a locked trash bin for trash. And if the city is taking the rodent issue that seriously, then one would think that the trash issue is just as important as the recycling issue. And we spent umpteen thousands of dollars buying these blue recycle bins. Would the city consider purchasing lockable, at least one lockable bin, where the residents could purchase additional bins if they so wanted, but at least a lockable bin so that the rats couldn't, require that. And then the other part of the resolution is, why do not we just tell people they have to put their trash out the day of the trash pickup, i.e. at 7:30 in the morning? I mean, there can be exceptions if you're traveling the night before, that's fine, no problem, I'm sure that this is that we work with that, but if you really want to get around that issue, the rats are very bright, they're very smart little animals, and they know that there's trash out there. And I'm not even focusing yet, I mean, people have talked to me about pre-baiting new construction sites. They've talked to me about all the dumpsters in the city of Waltham that are open, that are not locked up. For example, the Starbucks at the corner at 1019 Trapella Road, they had rats. I know a couple councils went down and tried to help them, and now they have these locked containers, which are really doing the thing. They're actually lockable containers. But you go next door to the Subway, and there's an open dumpster with Subway food. It's like, so they got rid of rats in one section. So I mean, there needs to be so much more done. So this just covers two items. Buying lockable containers for all the citizens of Waltham, all the residents. Two, restricting trash on the day that your trash is picked up. And two others, which are not on the resolution, would be pre-baiting of construction sites, which I think they may already be doing. And four would be a concerted effort to go after those other dumpsters that are still open, no doors, no nothing. So that's the purpose, and I hope this committee takes it seriously, because I have a lot of constituents that are waiting to hear back from you, so thank you very much. And I would, if someone could make a motion here from the two committee members that are here this evening.
Motion to all three members, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
And if we could get their comments first on those four
Sure.
items, that'd be wonderful.
Then we'll go afterwards. Okay. You guys have the floor, and you want to like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Or and finish. So a couple concerns with the placing of containers, not until the morning of. I don't really know how we would enforce it. So the inspectors, everyone leaves at 4:30. Inspectors leave earlier, 3:30. From that point on, there's no one out there to do it. I would not expect them or myself, just on the ride home or going out to dinner, to have to be writing down everywhere I see that there's people out. And I just don't, and that's one thing. The other thing is, people work different schedules. People work overnights. People, the last thing they want to do first thing in the morning when they're getting their kids ready is, I gotta do the trash, or I woke up early on the Saturday mornings when trash gets pushed to that, having to get up. I just don't know how it would be enforced, and to have a rule that to do this that we can't enforce seems, I don't know if it makes sense to do it that way. The trash carts, I have not looked at lockable, but I don't know if we need the lockable ones, but it's something we could look into. My thing is, and I stated it last meeting, that if we're going to do this, there needs to be a larger program to reduce trash that's produced in the city of Waltham. You need to limit that you get one trash bin and that's all you can have. You get to limit what you can throw away for big items. Waltham has the highest pounds per household of trash per year in the state. Or at least one of them. There aren't too many. It's a deep red color. It's 5 or 6 of them. Yes, we have unbelievable services. But if and I'll admit, if we did that, it would hurt our recycling to a point where people would hide trash for a while. And we could deal with that in other ways. But we need to start looking at the future and what we're doing, and to allow everyone to throw out into our trash and not have anything on them. We have people that own all the houses where college students live twice a year. They empty out their homes because they're done. They leave everything there and they either buy new or they move somewhere else and get new. The city's stuck with taking them. They should be forced to get dumpsters and have to, they're making money off of these students. That's part of the cost of doing business. That's where I want to see us go. How many barrels do you give to people? My idea, you can give them 196, and then look at what else you want to do. If people want another one, maybe you charge them a yearly cost to get one more, and that's it. I know, people with home daycares are going to complain, but again, you have a business, and that's the cost of doing business. At some point, we're going to be the only ones in the state that don't put a limit on trash. There's something wrong with that when everyone else around us is doing it, I think.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Just feel like we'd like to say a few words.
I met with Michael, I'm in agreement with Michael. We kind of looked at the big picture of everything. We know the road is our problem. The health department is doing the best that we can. I only have 3 inspectors. We're sending out warning notices. We're sending out citations. We're getting compliance, it's just taking a while. The city is a good size, and with 3 inspectors, they're swamped. I mean, they're trying. I brought numbers with me just to tell you like how many warning notices have gone out, almost 1,000, or just shy of 1,000. There's been 83 $25 tickets, there's been 10 $50 tickets, 1/3 $50 ticket, 2/4 offenses, and 1/5 offense of $50. They're being paid, but we're also trying to work with people and say to them, look, take that $25 ticket, instead of paying it, buy yourself barrels, buy your tenants barrels. We don't care if you have to buy 15 barrels, but get something, because if you don't, we're coming back at you next week, we're gonna see what's going on, we're gonna issue you another citation. So we're trying to work with the residents, but if this goes into effect, I think the city's in a really tough position, I hate to say it. But again, short-staffed and not enough. Our hands are tied. And I don't know if this is the best decision right now. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Romard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to do.
She can track so much business. It's my bad.
So, Mr. Chairman, what are other cities doing? Do they limit it to 1 barrel and that's it, or?
Yeah, a lot of cities limit it to 1 barrel. Some allow you to pay a yearly fee for a second barrel. They limit the number of, you can throw out bulk items, like if, we're all gonna have a couch or a mattress, or they limit that to 1 a week. And the idea is if you have a big, if you're trying to get rid of everything in your house, you're gonna have to rent a dumpster and to get rid of all that stuff, because you're not gonna wait 30 weeks to get rid of 30 big items if you're moving, or college kids moved out of your apartment.
What happens if they put 2 items out, does the item sit there?
We call and tell them to take it back. We're gonna, it's not as, we're gonna call and say, hey, Eric, oh, that's not mine.
Yeah. Because I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with you, absolutely. I didn't want to go on the record by saying that. And I know for a fact, people are bringing their trash to Waltham from other cities. I know for a fact. And so, I think we need to do something. I don't know what the answer is, but I think we need to begin to investigate that. So if you have options or alternatives of what other cities are doing, I would be interested in hearing that. To the point of the resolution, I absolutely think we need to begin to think about trash barrels, much like the recycled ones, and locking. I think when I think of that, I'm not quite sure, but I want to call it sort of rodent proof, right? It doesn't have to have a lock per se, but it's got to be able to lid closed and secured somehow, as opposed to the recycled ones would have just a lid and do nothing.
The problem with the lock, is that,
Latch, or let's call it a latch.
is that when they're lifted in, because a 96 gallon, the guy can't lift it if it's full of trash. They're lifted mechanically and they have to be able to open when they flipped over.
Yeah, but don't they have guys there that he can flip the little thing?
Well, no, the idea in some of them is that it's lifted with an arm that goes up and down. It's not in every neighborhood, but in some of the neighborhoods they use it. They do make what's considered rodent proof, both the cart body and the lid.
I gotta believe they can develop an arm to pick up the stupid thing.
Well, I don't think they're gonna do it just because Waltham wants it.
No,
so.
but I would, like I said, even if it's, as I say, some sort of slide thing and.
So none of the other cities have.
It takes 2 guys.
That doesn't mean that Waltham can't. But they all have rodent issues.
Yeah.
And I think, even with, I have 2 32-gallon small ones that I bought. They don't have a locking lid. I don't have any animals that get in those anymore. I used to have the other barrels. They're hard, because you have to lift the lid up from one side and an animal can't do that. So I have to face them not next to the deck, because then they can climb on the deck and open them. So, but if you face them the other way, it's fine.
Well, I would think, as I say, if we could provide us with some sort of other alternatives that we can vote on and put into action, that would be great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
The rodent proof, similar to the recycle bins, those have lids. The arm picks them up, they open and they close. Are those fairly rodent proof?
They are, and I think the lids on those have the bittering agent so that if an animal, you know, they're very thick, but if
Right,
an
right.
animal tries to, like, they don't like that taste. With the trash carts, it would be the entire body of the cart and the lids.
Because if those were fairly rodent proof, those barrels would be great, because like you were stating, one of the concerns would be people, especially the south side, work late night, you come home at 2 o'clock in the morning and put your trash out and wake up everybody in a poor family, or, you'd have to put it before you go to work, so that would be a challenge, and I can speak firsthand as to the department that I'm drawing a blank on. Health department, I'm sorry. That, I have a dumpster, and they came around and I got a letter. So sorry about that. But I got a letter stating that I needed to have better lids on the dumpster, and we did get replacement lids on it, and it was a major improvement. We had flimsy, kind of busted ones, and it was a major improvement as to on windy days, the trash blowing around. And then in a different dumpster, we got a letter from the health department because the bottom of the dumpster was rotted out and it was producing rodents, and we replaced that dumpster also. It was no fine, they just said, hey, did you know about this? Yeah, well, we sort of ignored it, and that when somebody said it, we got a new dumpster, because it's, it is a few $1,000s. And another concern of mine, and you guys can probably speak on a little better than me, is we have, so with the dumpsters and that, in years prior, we never got letters, because those lids were like that for 15 years, 20, I don't even know how long, but the dumpsters I was on the FOG committee, and one of the issues is dumpsters at the restaurants, just like the Council from Ward 3 mentioned with Starbucks. They have a food supply there. It's an endless food supply. They spill it, they drip it, they whatever. And then I saw that what they did over there was a major improvement with the lids, and all the holes in the hill there that was loaded with rats. The burrows are gone, which means they're gone because they went somewhere else for a different food source. How big is it compared to? Do you think the rodent-proof recycling, similar to the recycling bins, but rodent-proof trash barrels? Because it said lids on the trash barrels, and I'm picturing on a windy day, like when we had the old plastic things, the recycling was everywhere. The trash guys come, they flip the lids off, the lid's gone, they dump it, now you come home, your lid's, 3 streets over, and then you're not in compliance. The hingeable lids there, will that make a big difference? And then 2-part question, how much is the restaurant dumpsters? Because I know the Chateau went to a food recycling program, that they have just a food scrap dumpster now that is, I don't know if it's free, but they must pay for it, but that goes to a landfill. I think they said it was to feed hogs or something, but if you could speak on those two, if the foldable lids will help, and if the dumpsters.
So I think with the foldable lids, it definitely help, like they did with the recycling, to keep everything contained inside. I think 96 gallon or even 64, if people, it'll force people to recycle more, or at least think about it more. Family of 5, most days or most weeks, my 2 32 gallons are enough. Yeah, during Christmas, you're gonna have to get creative and recycle wrapping paper and all that, and do those things that are a pain, but I think the lid stand on one of the big complaints we both get is, every time I get a new barrel, the lid's broken in 2 days, because they flip it off, it blows into the street, 6 cars drive over it, or it blows away, and you can't go to the Home Depot and just buy a lid. So it's an issue, and you try and tie a rope around it so it's connected. People try everything and it doesn't work. So that's one of the reasons I went and did the 232s. So I think it will definitely help can't really speak on dumpster thing.
Mhm.
But she-
You might.
So last view, we might be able to designate either a trash barrel style. I don't know if we can designate a name brand, but a trash barrel style with a lid like that.
So
or
it's
would
the
city
same
provide?
company, like the company that we use, I asked them for a price just because we had contact. So they're, the 96 gallons are almost $60 a unit. You know, so if you're talking 18,000, 20,000 of them, you know, 1.1 million, 1.16. But that's about what, you know, we've got a similar amount of money to do the recycling things. It would make sense to try and use, they're under state contract, to try and use the same company, just so we're only dealing with one company. They already have a program with our recycling bins for repairs when they break and people call and, but whatever we have to do procurement wise.
Recycling bin was an easier sell because there was a cost savings for the city. There was a payback. So it was an easier sell. to-
Right. This whole thing will be a hard sell for you all.
Mhm.
I
And
mean,
then I know on one of the properties, my dad got a fine on Pond Street because he's the landlord. And he was stating it was his tenant, and it turned out it was the little pond court, the houses in the back where they trash out. And they were like, well, we can't really figure out who's, so you know, that'll be a tough task to figure out. But thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Council, I mean, it's awful because your father was in the office the other day, and I do know what happens is you have a corner house, and it could even happen to me, and it has happened to me. I'm on the corner of Washington Avenue, Lowell Street, somebody comes by, they drop that bag right outside your house. It's not my problem. So we can't sit there, open up a bag and go through and say, and this was the battle that went on, and we feel awful, believe me, but we're trying to make a difference in the city, we're trying. So we keep putting our foot down, and yes, we're getting pushback from a lot of people, but when I sit here and I'm listening to this, I'm looking at the numbers, I'm thinking, wow, 1,000 warnings, that's not bad, and we don't have 1,000 citations, which is good. So people are hearing what we're doing, they're talking to each other, so it's starting to get out slowly. The south side, I live on the south side, born and raised, it's a problem, I can say it. I drive down the streets every day, I walk the streets at night, I'm constantly writing down addresses, constantly going into the office, saying to the inspectors, what do we have on this address, in the mornings have to go out, citations. It is bad. I heard that the easy disposal guy said that south side is the worst offender. I said, I think the city's the worst offender because of the city dumpsters that are hard to maintain. I don't know why, but it happens. You know, I don't know what the answer is when situations like that come up. I mean, we don't want to hit somebody in the pocket, but we want compliance, but how do you get the compliance? So we're trying different ways to do this. We talk about the restaurant dumpsters. The restaurants, we usually inspect them 4 times a year. I'm lucky right now if I can get them 3 times because of the rodent problem. That's not right, because of what can happen in a restaurant to affect the public. I want my family to eat there, I want your family to eat there, and the outside to come into Waltham. I need to get the inspectors back into the restaurants, but I can't. Every time we get 1 step forward, we're taking 4 or 5 back. But we're trying to get on the restaurants about the dumpsters, we talk about covers, we talk about the doors, we talk about the holes, we talk about plugging the bottom of the dumpsters, so the only thing that should be coming out is the rainwater. Sometimes you get other stuff mixed in, but technically it should be the rainwater. We're doing everything we can, but it's never going to be enough, and that's the problem. Only 3 inspectors, I can't have them all in the city, and 8:30 to 4:30, and they're working all day long, all day.
I think, I mean, like I said, I got a couple warnings on different places, and I think that's a great job. We didn't used to get those, so.
No,
thank you very
no,
much.
so, I mean, it's a new thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let me get Councillor Harris, please. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. So, First of all, I want to thank the ward councilor for bringing this forward. And I also want to commend both of your efforts in trying to solve this complex problem. The population of Waltham is going up, and with it will be trash. And I do think this is a complex matter that is multifaceted. Trash barrels are just one piece of it, and I just want to take a moment to just speak to this committee, because I think the work ahead is to help solve for this multifaceted problem. Unlike recycling, a bigger barrel isn't going to fix the problem. There are more people living in apartments on the south side. I get calls nonstop about this issue. The building department can't keep up with the folks because housing is going up in Waltham. People are coming in and doing shares, not even a B&B kind of situation. There's 3 or 4 people sharing a bedroom, and they generate trash. And the landlord has 2 trash barrels because that's who they let to, and someone else has illegally subletted the apartment. And that's where you get on Cherry Street last week, there were 23 bags of trash outside of 4 barrels. Okay, there's supposed to be 4 people living in that apartment. There isn't. There's much, much more than that. I do think that this is tied to some of that population. I'm not saying this is happening everywhere in Waltham, but if the south side is the most egregious offender of this, there are drivers of that, and it truly is affordable housing and more people living in these apartments. Landlords also, I get calls from people who get into a new apartment, well, my landlord hasn't given me a trash barrel yet. What am I supposed to do? Go buy a trash barrel? So I do think part of this resolution needs to look at how we address this issue where illegal subletting is happening. How we possibly join forces to look at that. The second part of this, I do think, needs to look at landlords must supply enough trash barrels, period. Whether or not there's an ordinance or not, they are renting that, they are achieving and recouping rent from that, and they need to be supplying it. We have a rat problem in Waltham, and whether you live here or live in Weston, you need to have trash barrels. I do think this needs to be studied across various use cases, and I don't think this should be piecemealed and focused on the size of the barrel or how the lid flips. There is another proposal on the table that's been brought forward about composting. There needs to be larger incentives for people to recycle, to compost, to do things to reduce the amount. The bottom line here, I think, is we need a way to lessen the amount of trash that goes in the barrel and then contain what's in the barrel. And I would encourage this committee to look at this from a multifaceted perspective and include these other proposals that are coming in under other resolutions to look at trash comprehensively. Because I also, like you, walk a lot in my neighborhoods and walk a lot in the streets, and I am taking down some of these addresses and walking back by. And like I said, this one residence that had 26 literally bags of trash outside of 4 barrels. It is not a one-off. It's something that's happening and definitely impactful. So I want to thank the councilor, but going forward, I do think we need to look at this more comprehensively and uniquely to what's happening on the south side in various aspects of Waltham. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, perhaps Councilor from Ward 1 made a good comment about finding out what the other cities and towns surrounding Waltham do, so we can get some frame of reference. So maybe someone could ask the CPW director to give us at his convenience, to give us a list of what other cities and towns are invited.
I asked, we didn't make that formal request, but I can put it in a
All right.
formal request. So, Mr. Jason, you can provide us, alternatives for what surrounding cities are doing in terms of limiting trash and things like that. So that, as I say, we can look at those, the alternatives, and take some action.
Thank you. So we'd like to the matter back. Oh yeah, the other requests. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. You guys have it. Thank you. Clerk. Would like to leave the matter back on the table. All right. Councillor LeBlanc. The matter back on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Any
Take a matter off the table.
All right, Councillor LeBlanc would like to go ahead, take a matter off the table, go ahead.
I'd like to take the paving resolution off the table.
Paving resolution off the table, all in favor say aye. All say no, you guys have it, go ahead.
We got an opinion from the law department. 25, I would just make a request that we forward it to the DPW director.
I'm sorry, what was this for, Councilman?
Paving resolution.
Resolution